When it comes to gun safety, my goal has always been to try to deal with the actual problem that we have in our society, which is firearms ending up in the wrong hands and in some cases in the wrong places. And to do that in a way that has as little impact as possible on the rights of law-abiding gun owners who are not the problem. Most gun owners, and I come from a gun-owning family, come from a hunting family, most gun owners are responsible with their firearms. They don't go out and kill people. They are not the people who do school shootings. So my goal has always been to focus on the actual problems that exist without interfering any more than necessary with the rights of law-abiding gun owners. And it's very interesting. I've been working on this issue for 23 years, and it's very interesting how supportive and cooperative gun owners are. And that was the big secret that I discovered during my campaign in 1996, was how enthusiastic, in most cases, gun owners were for reasonable laws to deal with some of the abuses that we see in our society. The wrong people getting guns, criminals, domestic abusers, people with violent mental health issues, those people should not have guns. And if you look at our record over the past several years, we have focused on that population. The most recent bill being our red flag bill, which it's an emergency order if someone is in crisis. There is a process now in Oregon for law enforcement, or in some cases family members, to get a judge to act very quickly to get that person separated from their firearms. In most cases it's suicide. In most cases it's not school shootings, it's suicide. The suicide is the biggest gun violence problem we have in this society. So that legislation, from reports that I get, it's being used statewide. And I personally believe that it has already saved lives. And as far as the next session is concerned, one of the issues that we have talked about a lot in the past but not dealt with is child access to firearms. Responsible gun owners with children in their homes lock up their guns. Children do not get hold of guns in responsible gun owner households, which is most households. When children do get hold of guns, you see situations where 6-year-olds are killing 2-year-olds, and people and middle school kids are bringing guns to school that they get from their parents or grandparents. We need to deal with that issue. We need to hold gun owners responsible, those who are not already responsible, which is most of them, but those who are not responsible need to be held accountable. The other thing is, where do guns belong? Should concealed handgun license holders be able to bring guns into schools? My opinion has been for years that the school district should be able to decide that we should not be mandating that schools have to just accept parents coming to parent-teacher conferences with loaded guns. That is not conducive to a healthy education environment. So did that answer your question, Dick? Thank you.
Well, I need to say something, because I know that no matter what I do or say, I can't make Herman happy. But, and he should know this, Senate Bill 2 is an Eastern Oregon land use bill that's taken my office 2 to 3 years to put together. The bill is signed on by Bill Hansel and by a guy named Bentz and a guy named Courtney. And it is the first breakthrough, I believe, since we passed the land use law to deal with lands in Eastern Oregon to make sure that they allow it to develop free of some of the regulation. This struggle has been going on. Hopefully we can get the bill through. You've got 1,000 friends, you've got the farmers, you've got a variety of interests, and it could be a breakthrough. That is a direct attempt for this very urban, whatever you want to call me, suburban, to speak to Eastern Oregon and the fact that I feel an obligation, not as a Senate president, but as a state senator, to all of Oregon. There is another bill that involves a shooting range bill that it's the first gun bill I've ever introduced. I thought I had a Republican, wanted to be, but I understand the NRA has moved in involving a major accident where a bullet came across the Willamette River here and went into the kitchen of a person's home in Kaiser from shooting going on the other side of the river. Since I live there, I hear that all the time. I'd hoped we could do the bill together, but again, it's an attempt to work with Republicans on this extremely sensitive issue of gun control. But there's more, and I just want to leave you with this. I beg you all to go back and look at the last capital construction budget, the last, just pick it, 3 or 4 or 5, and look at the capital construction budget that we passed in terms of bonding, revenue bonds, lottery bonds, general obligation bonds, Z bonds, that's what I meant there is. And look at the projects that we agreed to fund. And look at the number of projects that are in Eastern Oregon and our Republican districts. We go out of our way, I go out of my way to try to help them in their world with these, many of which is, maybe it's just a library improvement, an irrigation thing, you name it, incredible. Out of our way to try to make that happen. And he knows that. He came to me and asked me to help him with more state troopers because of what's going on up in the hollows of where he lives. Hollows is a West by God, Virginia term. We don't use it here. It's a very difficult situation. I went and made a special request for more state troopers. I made a mistake, which I tend to be full of. I forgot they got to have cars and other stuff. So while I thought I got 20 new troopers, it only came into about maybe 13 or 14 because you got to have the training and everything. So I'm just going to say this now. I believe very strongly that I want him to feel, and I try to make him feel, I want him to feel that he's as much a part of his process and his people are as anybody else. And that's all I can say, Herman. I mean, I know I can't get where you want me to go on some conservative issues. I know you're down on me on suction dredge mining. I get it. But the fact is, I do think there's an attempt in this legislature to try to build relationships across the aisle and across the building.
Well, as you can see, that the Senate President is good at dominating the conversation.
Wait a minute, I didn't talk too long, and she talked longer than I did.
My question was to me, but anyways, as far as gun control, gun safety, the whole gun conversation, and somebody that's been around the gun community all my life, I've always looked at that the gun is the tool. It's the evil in somebody's soul is the problem. And I would really like to see the state of Oregon start pointing its efforts at identifying those people and getting some help. Because obviously anybody that creates those atrocities are sick. Nobody in their right mind would do that. And even though the statistics tell us that in Oregon we have about 30% gun ownership, but we have one of the lowest homicide rates in the country. But one homicide is too much. And I really believe, I would love to see more efforts going out to try to identify people who has this evil in their heart, because the gun is just a tool. If you look at equatorial countries where the people don't have enough money to buy firearms, the machete becomes the tool. So it's the evil in the person's soul that we need to try to identify and try to get some help. And in Oregon, we went backwards. We do not have the facilities to house people while they're going through treatment. We don't have that anymore. The pendulum has swung the other way. Now, if somebody is identified with a mental illness, 9 times out of 10, they go in, they give them some pills, and they're outpatient. And that's not working for us. We can't do that anymore. We have got to put some resources into mental illness, and we have to put some resources in identifying people that are sick and that have evil in their soul.
If I could just pick up on that, because this is an area of agreement. The need for mental health services, and nobody has shown more leadership on that issue than this guy here to my left, Senator Courtney. When the Student Success Committee went around the state, that was the dominant issue that came up in all their discussions with teachers, students, community members, parents, was mental health. Mental health is a crisis in our schools. It's a crisis in our society. And Senator Baertschiger is absolutely right. We have we've made a lot of progress thanks to Senator Courtney, but we have a long ways to go.
Yes, we do.